The real issue is that a goodly number of our population doesn't have affordable access to broadband. And the reality is we don't really know what access people do and don't have for a whole bunch of reasons. And I'll kind of go into that in just a minute. So first of all, let's figure out what broadband means. Okay, so what does broadband mean? Broadband is a definition of an upload speed and a download speed for data. In other words, how fast does data go from point A to point B and from point B back to point A? So the download speeds are the rate at which you receive information. The upload speeds are the rate at which you convey information. So if you're watching a movie, or if you're engaged in a Zoom call or a Skype or some other form of video conferencing, then you have a pretty high requirement for bandwidth, meaning you have a lot of up and download speed requirements in order to get that information communicated effectively. If you don't, then what happens is you've got a degradation of the quality of the signal, and that causes either an inability to actually understand what's being said or to have a continuity in the messages you're delivering or you're receiving. So the information may be choppy, it may be unintelligible. All sorts of unfortunate things can happen with regard to the transmission of that data. So what do you have to do next? You have to figure out how to solve for that. How do we get broadband access to be more ubiquitous and more affordable? And what is broadband defined as being? So let's start with the definition. In 1999, the Federal Communications Commission decided that the definition of broadband would be, if you can believe this, 200 kilobytes up and down. So the download speeds would be 200K and the upload speeds would be 200K. Now, for those of you old enough to remember, that was like good stuff if you were an AOL member and you were trying to use dial-up, and that gave you access to a whole world of unknown opportunities. Well, today, that doesn't qualify as broadband whatsoever. In fact, in the year 2010, the FCC updated the definition of broadband to 4 meg down, so 4 megabytes down, and 1 megabit up. Now, what that means is that you went from 200K up and down, which is symmetrical, to 4 meg down and 1 meg up, which is asymmetrical. And what ISPs figured out, or internet service providers figured out, and the telecommunications service providers figured out, was that you needed to get information, so the download speed needed to be faster than the upload speed. So what they did is they toggled the technology so that the download speeds would be faster and the upload speeds would be slower. So if you're having to allocate resources on the telecom lines, that's the way they did it. Well, that standard is important and it was relevant at the time. But what's happened now is that the standard was changed in 2015. And in 2015, they changed the standard from 10 megabits down to 25 megabits down, and from 1 megabit up to 3 megabits up. So, substantial improvement on both the download speed and the upload speed, but still a long way from what one might expect today, given the fact that the good folks at Zoom, as recently as 2 days ago, it was announced on The Verge, that Zoom would say that 25 down is not adequate, and not adequate resource for a Zoom call for one user. Okay, so what they're saying is a video conference call for one person would require more bandwidth than 25 meg down and 3 megabits up. Now that's pretty important because a lot of today's economy, education, and healthcare is being performed through Zoom or Zoom-like technologies. So if you're doing remote learning, if you're interviewing for a job, if you're doing telemedicine, then all those things are impacted by your up and your download speeds. And so what I would suggest to you is, and this is why I'm troubled by it, is that a goodly portion of American society is precluded from the American dream, expressed in the form of education, jobs, and healthcare if they don't have broadband access. So I'll say it again. A goodly segment of our population is precluded from the American dream. In fact, they're precluded to a large extent from the contemporary economy if they don't have access to broadband, because they don't have access to job opportunities, educational opportunities, or healthcare opportunities because of this lack of access. And so we have to go then say, well, how big of a problem is this? And the answer is, we don't know. And we don't know for a couple of reasons. One is, we don't have the ability to do field engineering tests broadly across the country. And the FCC hasn't actually developed a sufficient understanding of what consumers are actually obtaining. So there's two problems. One is, what is the ISP, or the internet service provider, claiming that they're doing in terms of a service being offered to the community? And the second thing is, what are consumers actually able to buy? Because there's a question of affordability. So what are the ISPs saying they're delivering? So advertising, what are the advertised speeds? And the second thing is, what are consumers actually able to buy because they can afford it? And we've done some preliminary research, and what we found is not good at all. It's saying, first of all, you can't rely on what the internet service providers are communicating, because those are at best the best outcome possible, and which means it's unlikely that you're actually getting it. There are technology reasons for that, there are topography reasons for that, and there are a variety of other reasons for that. But at what we can say with certainty is that the advertised rates are the best case scenario for what somebody in an area that delivered theoretical coverage is getting. In other words, somebody may be saying they're delivering this, but that's the best case scenario.